My name is S.K. Williams, and today I would like to discuss something that I myself created. It's called the Time Agency series. The title may change as I develop it because the idea is still in development. But I did originally plan on having 3 sample stories presented for the Paschal season. The first one would have been presented on Palm Sunday. The second one would have been presented on Easter Sunday, which is also Palm Sunday for the Eastern Orthodox. And the third would have been presented on Paschal, Easter for the Eastern Orthodox. But I didn't really like the ending for the first sample story, so I'm going to rewrite it. And it is still in a draft form anyway. In fact, I don't have all of the details worked out for my series, though enough to write the series. One of the main characters still doesn't have a name, and I'm using the placeholder name of Sky Last Name. The entire name will be replaced. And I'll give more detail next week as to the rest of the series. But the series stars 3 main characters, 2 of which will not be named. One by choice because I want that character unfolded over time, and one because I simply don't have a name, and I've already mentioned the name that I'm using here. Sky Last Name. The other 2 are Angel Sherford and the Controller. The 3 are time agents who work for a time agency that doesn't just work in an agency that exists, that works for the government and goes back in time and forward in time. They actually work for an agency whose bases exist outside of normal time, in their own bubbles, with their own internal chronology, so changes to time would not actually affect them. And even then, they don't just enter time and go to what we would think of as the past, present, and future. They also navigate higher levels of time and space. And in fact, they prefer to do it that way. Because time-space isn't just about the linear time that we see. There are certain aspects of reality that we don't see that also affect what we do in the material world that are often easier to manage and work with. So they'll work on various quantum levels and various subspace and hyperspace levels, rather than simply working within the material world. They'll even work within metaphysics, which is one of the things that sets this series apart in terms of science fiction, because I'm actually going to try and get the science right. I'm not going to rely on using things like quantum mechanics as a backdrop whilst making the story more about personal trauma and therapy. Rather, the series is going to be an educational one where I actually explain real concepts in physics, especially quantum mechanics, and I'm hoping to get them accurate, or at least close to accurate. Or as accurate as I can, because the sciences update and change. Had I written this series back in the 1990s or early 2000s, for example, I may have been compelled to talk about the universe with being composed of strings and adding string theory, which is now no longer quite as popular as it once was, shall we say. It has fallen out of favor. But in addition to quantum mechanics, I'm also going to draw heavily from the scholastic tradition in Christianity. And I'm not going to do a series where science and religion are at odds and they fight and science is ultimately proven to be true, or the reverse, where religion is proven to be true. I'm not even creating a universe where there's 2 sets of laws, the scientific laws and the religious laws that are in competition. Science and religion don't compete. There is one truth, and these are methods of describing them. And I would like to show in this series that the scholastic tradition actually aligns quite well with the modern views of quantum mechanics. As odd as that sounds, especially in our world where we know as a culture that science and religion are incompatible and hostile to each other, the truth of the matter is they're not. And the conflict thesis has been disproven by actual historians for around 60 or so years. We know that science and religion aren't always at odds, but it's become a cultural truism that we just sort of accept. And I would like to show how they overlap, whilst also discussing real philosophical and theological issues. And I'm also going to approach it in a way that I can explore themes and concepts from other world religions, because I don't think that the Christian religion is true, therefore all others are simply false. I don't think that things that contradict can both be true, but religions aren't package deals. A religion can say one thing that is true and another thing that is false, and it would not negate the truth of what it is saying when it speaks the truth. And I don't really think the world's major religious traditions are mostly just fairy tales or delusions. They have a reason to exist. And I will draw heavily on those as well, but mostly I'm rooting this in the Christian scholastic tradition. So think Thomas Aquinas. Think Pseudo-Dionysus. Think Boethus. Or at least look the names up of the people that I just said if you've never heard of them before. The Time Agency series sees agents who wear black and white uniforms. Field agents wear black uniforms with white highlights, white lapels, a white hem stripe along the bottom, and white cuffs. In fact, these uniforms have shown up in videos that I've made on my old channel and on this channel in various stops. I've actually designed these before. The base agents wear a mirrored version of that, where they're white uniforms with black highlights. But both the base agents and the field agents wear red cravat neckties. And they're primarily tasked with preserving the natural flow of time and protecting the integrity of time-space. So they're not trying to go back in time and correct historical errors. They are trying to preserve reality as it is known, which sometimes requires history to be changed, but usually doesn't, and they try and avoid that. In fact, they try and avoid entering regular history at all. They call that incursion, and they try and avoid it. That's not to say they always do, but they generally try to avoid that. The agency will have some interesting characters, interesting concepts, and agents drawn from all over human history and perhaps elsewhere. And I hope you come in next week to learn more about the series. But for right now, I shall take my leave. Thank you, God bless, and goodbye.